Comedy done, action done, fantasy done. We've got sci-fi and romance. Let's do sci-fi. We'll end on romance. We'll end gently. Sci-fi. And this list is probably going to be pretty confused because I could not remember very many sci-fi movies, even though sci-fi is one of my favorite genres. So this one's going to be kind of silly as we start this. Star Wars, you know what, that instantly goes into honorable mentions. I did not put that in my main ones, and that is fair. I would say the original trilogy of Star Wars is a goddamn masterpiece and should probably be in my top 5, but it's not. Star Wars is an expanded universe. The second set of trilogies, I wasn't a big fan of. The third set of trilogies, I never got into. The first part of that trilogy felt like it just essentially remade the first movie, and I felt kind of like pandered to, so I didn't like it because of that. And then the second one went in a different direction, which really annoyed me. And then the third one was completely off, so no, not a fan of those ones at all. The anime series that came out recently, I liked like 1 or 2 parts of. And I did like Mandalorian, and I did like a couple of the spin-offs. I like some of the games, but yeah, in general, Star Wars is just not my thing. Yes, I mean, that's fair. Dune, instantly. The new Dune goes into there immediately. That's 2021, right? Goes into there immediately. Because that is a amazing made movie. I like that they took the time with it. The fact that they only made 1 part so far, but they took their time to make it properly and didn't just try to rush into it and be like, let's get all this story in one go, or record 3 parts at one go. They were just like, we're going to do this. We're going to put this out there. People are going to like it, and we're going to come back. Clone Wars was good. Okay, let me actually do this. So, when it comes to sci-fi, one of my favorite movies of all time. This is going to annoy people. Fuck it. Prometheus. Again, these are not in order of my top 5, but still. This is just to get this one out of the way so that people can shout at me. I love Prometheus. I love the Alien series. The main thing I loved about the Alien series wasn't the alien and horror aspects themselves. It was the fact that they had like that idea of the ancient aliens things when it came into the architects. This general idea of a species before humanity being out there. The cosmic horror parts of that, of them basically being giant, huge humans who are more powerful than us and more smart than us and existed thousands of years before us and should have outlived us, but somehow died. And how did they possibly die? And Prometheus took that and ran with it. They made a whole movie out of that shit. And I fucking loved it. I loved that beginning of those movies where it just explored the general idea of, hey, what if there's life out there? And what if we could find it? What if it's guiding us home and they created us? That's freaking great. I love that. I wish they had continued on that rather than trying to connect it just back to the goddamn alien thing. That's fine. That's fine. Anyway, we'll go on to the next one, which will annoy people a bit less. I'm not sure if this one's particularly well known anymore. It's like a horror sci-fi mashup. Event Horizon. Which gets very cosmic horror, very existential horror. And kind of reminds me of the TV show, like the first season of The Expanse. Well, technically, The Expanse is a novel series before anything else. But Event Horizon is just a really good horror sci-fi film, wherein a spaceship has basically... How much can I say without spoiling this one? Event Horizon's really good. You should watch it. It's a horror movie where a spaceship itself has essentially become haunted. And yeah, you explore the spaceship and you find out what happened to the crew and how they assimilated. It's all like multi-dimensional horror. It feels like when they made the Cloverfield Paradox, which was like a second sequel to Cloverfield, and they were jumping around dimensions and stuff. They basically stole some of their idea. Well, they didn't steal. They basically used some of the ideas from Event Horizon and didn't do it well. Whereas Event Horizon has the proper like cosmic horror, body horror, fucked up situations going on in space that you can't escape from because you're trapped in a spaceship with everyone. It's so... I searched this pics and oh my god, yeah. The first book for The Expanse, I think it's called Something's War. God damn it, I've got the book around here somewhere. Gideon's War or something? Anyway, it focuses on the general idea of a spaceship being infected by an interdimensional being that has a consciousness but can take over technology and come to life. It's incredible. Event Horizon basically did that ages ago, but turned it into a horror movie and an existential crisis kind of movie. It's so fucking good. Anyway, we'll move on to number 3. Who said Among Us? No, how dare. How dare. I'm gonna put out one that I feel like a lot of film buffs know. It was a pretty small thing when it was made. It was made, I'm pretty sure, as like an indie thing and pretty cheaply. But it's called Moon. It has one of the like best revelation kind of things when it comes to it. It involves just like a dude who has to work on a lunar station, so a station on the moon for a year, doing like menial tasks, just getting some shit done, collecting some energy sources and sending them back to Earth. And from there it gets a bit horror-filled and very sci-fi, where you don't quite know what's going on, but you start to find out that this dude's on the moon for a reason he might not have expected, and one that he definitely didn't choose to be there for. The revelations come at you slowly, but by the end of it, you're completely shocked by exactly what's going on. It's so good. It's so powerful. I can't say much about that other than just watch it. It starts off so slow. It will grow on you, and you will love it by the end. The revelations actually got me, which is pretty rare. Not that I'm smart or anything. I'm not trying to say, oh, I always outthink movies. It's just, I've seen so many movies by this point that normally I could see the signs, the Chekhov's guns building up. We've done the Prometheus. So we've got 2 more that are probably not really well known. I got very annoying with my sci-fi movies. Now that I'm seeing people suggest movies, I'm like, oh, that makes more sense. That's like a better known one and probably a better made one, but The Endless. The Endless is a movie in which 2 kids who grew up as part of a cult suddenly get a VHS tape sent to them, and they decide to follow the VHS tape. It was sent from them from their childhood cult, and they don't know what's going on, but they decide to go back just to see what's going on. And when they do, they essentially find out that since they left, absolutely nothing has changed at all. And something weird is going on. And it follows them like reintegrating into this community that everybody is kind of weird at. It's a bit like Midsommar, where they all live out in the desert and they live like very simplistically. And there's this very weird scenario going on where even though it's been like more than a decade, no one there seems to have aged a day. And they feel like one of them feels like they've been lured there for nefarious purposes, and maybe they're going to be sacrificed or tortured or something. And yeah, it gets very deep from there. It's really good. Like, it's worth watching. It just never stops with the revelations one by one. So good. I can't really say. This is the problem. So many of these that like I love them because they have big twists in them. I guess that works for The Arrival as well, whereas I could talk a lot more about the general makeup of The Arrival. Whereas so many of these are like, they have good revelations. I swear, the basic premise does not give exactly what you want from it. Okay, my number 5 is... yeah. Another one by one of my favorite directors. Annihilation. So Annihilation is another one that's based off of a novel, and the novel is written in a very interesting way. It does have 2 ends. Shit. I was like, that can't be right. God damn it. But yeah, it's based off of a novel that was written in a very interesting way. It's one of the few novels, the movies based off of a novel where I have actually read the novel in this. The 4 main characters in the storyline that go explore an dimensional anomaly that has fallen onto Earth all have different like specialities when it comes to science, and so the novel mainly mentions them by their specialities. Like, it will be like, the geologist said this, the forensic whatever said this. Like, it's written very interestingly, and they all do speak like they're constantly thinking about their one reason for being there. It's written incredibly well. The movie like leads into that as well, with reasons that people would go into a place that they know they probably won't come back from, but they want to explore like the nature of the universe. This is cosmic horror. Yeah, it's cosmic horror. I love cosmic horror, so yeah, there's got to be a lot of cosmic horror on it. But yeah, the general idea is something's fallen down to the earth, and it's a slowly expanding field where anything that enters the field, its DNA, its makeup, everything gets warped a little bit. Whatever this alien species is, it's kind of like Lovecraft's The Color Purple, or The Color Out of Space, where it's something we can't quite understand, we can't see physically, but it's interacting with life at a genetic level, taking it apart and rebuilding it in a way that it wants to deal with. And so yeah, there's all these different scientists that are trying to study it. It's slowly expanding. They know if they don't do anything, eventually it's going to take over the whole planet, and it doesn't matter anyway. So a bunch of people are deciding to walk into it and try to examine it, try to figure out what's going on. Why did they go into it, and what happens to them when they do, and what happened to all the other forms of life when they got into it. Natalie Portman? Yeah, it's Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaac, Gina Rodriguez. Who's the other girl? There was a big name that was in it, but I can't remember. Is it? What else were you in? I felt like there was like Sookie Stackhouse or someone in it, but I guess not. I must have imagined that. Weird. Anyway, that is my top 5 sci-fi movies. Honorable mentions, let me grab these. Dark City, which I've talked about at length before, how much I love it and how trippy it is and how cyberpunk it is. Sunshine. It's another one where the universe is ending, so I like that. Really good classical music. I think it's called Adagio in C minor. One of my favorite songs of all time. Sunshine is just another one where people go into space. They try to reset the sun because the sun is turning off, essentially. It's running out of fuel. They have a payload where if they don't deliver it, the whole universe, solar system is going to be gone. Blade Runner / 2049. Even though I much prefer 2049 to the original Blade Runner, I can't deny that when the original Blade Runner came out, it was a masterpiece. It's just not great to me anymore. I also really liked Black Lotus recently, the series of Blade Runner. And the short movies that they brought out, the anime movies, were really good, especially the one that had like the robot, the android that used to be like a dancer that fought alongside the anarchist that ended up causing the blackout. That shit was great. I loved that. That was I brought it very much more to like a Ghost in the Shell kind of place where I really liked it. Ex Machina. Primer, which is one about time travel, but in a very simplistic way, where just a group of friends have found out how to do time travel. It's a very simple version of time travel that I really like. It has good twists in it. Does this count as... You know what? I'm going to count it. Memento. Memento is actually probably one of my top 30 movies of all time. It's a really good, like, it's another one that pulls the wool over your eyes. Time goes, like, in different directions in Memento. It's a dude who has no short-term memory. And so although he can remember things about himself, it all stops at one point. And so he lives his life with a bunch of like Polaroid things. Everything's tattooed onto his body to remind him of who he is and what he has to do. And then he has like messages that he's left to himself. Really good. I did Primer. I add Interstellar? No, Interstellar. Which I think pretty much everyone knows about. It's another, the universe is ending. We have to do something. It has to do with like time dilation once he gets into space, which is really good. It takes a long time to get into space though, which is part of the problem. I didn't like the robot. The robot could have been better. The Fly. Existence. I feel like everybody knows what The Fly is as well. That's a body horror one where a person essentially messes with his DNA, combines it with a fly accidentally, and then he becomes a fly. It's really fucked up. Existence is a really old one where essentially virtual reality games have been invented. A person puts on a virtual reality headset, ends up in a game world, has fun playing the game. It all feels real. It feels way too real. It's a lot of body horror as well and disgusting stuff. But yeah, he comes out of the game, but then he's not sure whether he's in the game or out of the game still. It's very Matrix, where it's like, what if we're still in the game? And there's like multiple levels to the game, and you never quite know when it ends. Like, are they back in reality yet, or are they just one layer deeper? Very also Inception style. I liked Existence. Some films by Nolan, where I don't see any. I'll add Inception. That's technically a sci-fi. More than That's the thing. A lot of his ones don't fit because they're more dramas to me. Like the Batman films, I guess, could have technically been action, but even then, I'd only put Batman Begins in. I wasn't actually that big of a fan as the second one, like everybody else was. And when it comes to his movies in general, I think my favorite one of his was, I forget the one, the island one, where it's the investigator, the police officer, having like memories. Oblivion? I didn't actually like Oblivion that much. Gravity? I didn't like Gravity that much. Gravity was interesting, where it was just like Sandra Bullock floating through space trying to get back to anywhere. Shutter Island, thank you, that's the one. Shutter Island's really good. But yeah. Gravity I wasn't that much of a fan of. Like I get the appeal of it, but yeah. Martian was just kind of boring to me even. It just felt like it was just someone trying to survive. It was, yeah. Battle Angel Alita, I'll add that here. Fuck it. That should have probably been in action. But I'll add that here just because it's one of the few movies that actually did an anime adaptation pretty damn well. I loved Battle Angel Alita. iRobot? Yeah, I'll add iRobot. iRobot was fun. 2001 A Space Odyssey? No, bored me to tears. I'm sorry. I know that's apparently one of the best films ever made for cinematography for the time. Way too long, way too slow. I know like all the beats of it. I could not tell you the entire film because I've never managed to stay awake the whole way through it. I immediately see people saying, how dare. Gantz, yeah, I'll add Gantz Zero. Gantz Zero is a pretty damn good movie, even though I had no idea what was going on in it because I haven't read the manga. I stopped off at the anime. Gattaca, I'll add Gattaca. Fuck yeah. Gattaca was really good. Gattaca is a story where basically everybody has got perfect DNA nowadays. In the story, everybody has perfect DNA because they created a way that they could genetically engineer themselves to be perfect. So anyone who was born like not perfect is basically seen as a lower class citizen and isn't allowed to apply for certain jobs or do certain things. And then there's this guy who really wants to become, I think, an astronaut or something. He essentially like does all these things where he hires somebody who has like perfect DNA to let him use his blood, use his hair. Like he pretends to be him. He takes his identity willingly, like he pays for it. And he has to do all these like interesting levels of things of like putting fake fingertips on himself and little tiny bits of blood in them. Making sure his actual biological hair never falls off anywhere because people can test it and see that he's not a perfect human being. It's done really well. It's really damn good. E.T. I wasn't actually a fan of E.T. The Thing I will add. Fuck me. The Thing is incredible. The Thing is the original Among Us. Let's be fair. The Thing is fantastic. In Time. Is that the Justin Timberlake one? That had an interesting storyline, but it didn't really go anywhere. Alice in Borderland isn't a movie. It's a TV show. Unless. Is it? The Matrix? I didn't really like The Matrix. Oh, The Fifth Element. Let's go. Now you're talking. The Fifth Element was incredible. It had great world building. The song that alien sang was so good. About Tenet, didn't like it. Interesting idea, not done well. Cloud Atlas, I did like. Cloud Atlas was fantastic. Some stupid ideas when they made that film. But I did like the idea of like the same human spirits coming back multiple times and reuniting with each other in different ways, always having the same birthmark so you could kind of tell who was who based on their personality, based on the way they were raised, were very different. It was very good. Didn't like The Matrix. It was boring to me. I liked the first Matrix. Everything after the first Matrix has soured everything beyond that for me. I tried to watch the new Matrix. I hated it. I remember hating number 2 and 3. Can't even remember them anymore. The first Matrix was a masterpiece, but everything since then, it just killed me to the point where I can't even look at the originals anymore. It's the same. That's probably the reason that Star Wars isn't in one of my top 5. They've just continuously run it down into the ground where I can't look at the originals the same anymore. And it sucks. But yeah, it gets to that point where I'm just like, eh. District 9 is also pretty amazing. Bronze. The whole like cordoning off a little area for the aliens wanting more, the way that the aliens and humans interact with each other is incredible. Butterfly effect. I'll do that. Loop a lot so much. Reflect. Butterfly effect, yeah. I'm gonna add that. That was actually one of my favorite films for a long time. I am very into time travel, if you couldn't tell. A lot of these movies throughout this entire list have had to do with like timey-wimey shenanigans. But Butterfly Effect was one of the ones that hit me very hard when I was very young. The different ways that like reality could change based on that. The ending of the film is so powerful to me, depending on which cut you make. There's a normal cut and a director's cut. The director's cut is the best one for me, because all of like the Chekhov's guns were placed there already with like spoilers. Oh God. The ending for the director's cut really, really seals the deal for me for everything. I know there were sequels. I never watched them. I never want to watch them. I've heard they were bad. Butterfly Effect 1, even though it was a bit silly and a bit rushed, I had a lot of fun with it. It was very interesting seeing him go back in time, change things, and how it really did like have a butterfly effect ability to just spread out into everything else. I'm sad Space Odyssey is not here. Well, you're not here either, Millie, so this is your fault. I can't. It's too long. The Time Traveler's Wife? How dare you with the Time Traveler's Wife? You know what? Top 5 romance. Time Traveler's Wife. How did you know? This is because Millie incepted this into you guys' brain yesterday by saying that I love Rachel McAdams. That only came up because I realized when I was like making all of my like list of favorite movies, I was like, holy shit, Rachel McAdams is like in every one of my favorite romance movies. It wasn't that I was just suddenly like, damn, I really love Rachel McAdams. She's like the perfect woman. It was just I was looking through my list of movies and I was like, you know what? She's fucking everywhere.